King Charles is under increasing pressure to cut all ties with Prince Andrew after the Duke was named nearly 70 times in unsealed court documents relating to billionaire paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Andrew was stripped of his military titles and royal patronages by the late Queen Elizabeth, but has recently made a tentative return to public life, appearing alongside the royal family at church on Christmas Day.
It's also emerged the Duke has now been reported to the Metropolitan Police over the alleged sexual assault of a 17-year-old girl in London. But the force has confirmed no investigation has been launched, saying in a statement, "We are aware of the release of court documents in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. As with any matter, should new and relevant information be brought to our attention, we will assess it. No investigation has been launched." Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer said that police should be willing to support the victims and look into any allegations against Andrew, regardless of his position and status. Prince Andrew denies all allegations of wrongdoing made against him.
Joining us now is former royal editor of The Sun, Duncan Larkham. Welcome, Duncan. Well, in a little while, we're going to have a look at what we think the police, or what a lot of people are saying the police ought to do here. I mean, they say, oh, you know, if you're a rape victim or an alleged rape victim, we'll do everything we can, no matter when the crime against you happened, we'll be there. Well, you know, this wasn't that long ago. Seems to me there's enough evidence to warrant a Metropolitan Police investigation, but they don't seem to want to do that. We'll see if we can find out why. But in terms of the royal family, Duncan, I think there's increasing pressure on the King to do something, to really cut this guy out of public life. We ran a sort of phone question thing just before Christmas. Should King Charles tell Prince Andrew to stay away from church on Christmas Day? Because that is rather a public event. And guess what? He turned up, milking it for all he was worth, you know, waving at the fans and all that. And I thought it was an unsavoury thing to say. The King's got to do something, hasn't he?
I think this is probably an example of where the Royals may feel they've taken one step forward with Andrew back in the limelight on Christmas Day, and now 3 steps backwards. And I think we're back to where we were nearly 2 years ago when, of course, the royal family or Prince Andrew paid off his main accuser for an alleged sort of £12 million. So this is really not what the King would want to have come across his desk this morning. And I think we are probably back where we were, right at the heart of this scandal, which of course led the Queen to strip her favourite son of his duties and effectively sack him.
The question is, of course, though, what do they do with him? Because it's an inconvenient truth, isn't it, that he can hardly go and get a job in the real world. I doubt he's qualified to do much. He is, of course, allowed to continue doing his own charity work, but I can't imagine many organisations would touch him with a barge pole. And he's costing the royal family a pretty penny. My understanding is the King has suggested that he needs to move out of his current royal residence and downgrade, because essentially he's costing the taxpayer a lot of money for, well, hardly any return on investment.
Yes, I mean, there's a suggestion that he'll be kicked out of Royal Lodge, which is a 36-room grace and favour house he's lived in for a long time, and moved possibly to Frogmore Cottage, the one made famous by Harry and Meghan as their honeymoon gift, which they didn't particularly spend much time there, as we know. It's very difficult for King Charles. I mean, what do you do? These allegations have been around now for more than 12, 13 years. Prince Andrew obviously famously visited Jeffrey Epstein in New York after Epstein had been convicted and served time for being effectively paedophile offences. And that brought into question what judgment has this senior royal got of the friends he keeps, and what on earth has this whole murky story, which just won't go away and keeps coming back. It's very difficult for King Charles, I would imagine, to know what to actually do to punish his own brother.
I mean, cynics might dismiss Prince Andrew as a freeloading, pompous oaf, to be honest with you. He's barely put a foot right throughout his entire life. So what I'm saying, Duncan, is somehow or other, both in terms of the police and the royal family. But Charles maybe has to do something to lance the Andrew boil, because, as you suggested earlier, the pressure is right back up again. And I don't accept what the police are saying, that nothing has changed because of the Epstein files. I think something has changed. They've got a concrete allegation by an alleged victim that she was raped when she was underage at Ghislaine Maxwell's house. If that's not enough to warrant and trigger an investigation, I don't know. But if the police are really dead set on not doing anything about this, surely the King has got to somehow or other diffuse the mounting pressure here.
Well, I mean, I think you're right. And frankly, as this story's rolled on, more and more information, more accusations, all of which keep being denied by Prince Andrew, come to light. It does make you wonder why on earth there isn't some sort of proper inquiry into this whole thing. I mean, it does Andrew no favours for this to still linger and damage both him and the royal family. He insists he's innocent, but he opted out of the option of going to an American civil court and actually having his day in court to clear his name, set the record straight. He chose instead to pay out millions of pounds, and that looks awful for the royal family. So, you know, we perhaps need some kind of investigation. It would be potentially from the Metropolitan Police, but some sort of inquiry to discover really what on earth lies at the root of all these claims and counterclaims and denials, which at the end of the day are just damaging for a new king in office who really doesn't need this headache from his brother.
Yeah, I mean, the royal family's mantra has always been never complain, never explain. And I think to some degree, perhaps the focus that would have been on Prince Andrew was somehow mitigated by the dramas of the Sussexes. But do you think now they actually do have to come out and do something, given the gravity of what is beginning to become quite clear?
I think King Charles needs to do something. You're absolutely right. I think he needs to get some kind of investigation going, because let's be honest, we're not talking about dodgy business dealings or some sort of scandal involving free flights and backhanders. We are talking about extremely serious allegations that in these latest documents Andrew may have been involved with in an orgy with underage girls. Well, that's far too serious a topic and allegation just to be forgotten about and hope that it will go away, because it won't go away. It's still coming back. And so perhaps I think you might be right, Alex. Maybe now is time for the king to put his foot down, show some leadership on this, and actually try and get to the bottom of all of this, given that Andrew is adamant that he's done nothing whatsoever wrong.
Yeah, thank you, Duncan Larkham.